Can you guys hear me? I can't hear you guys.
Hi Nancy, you're very, very faint. If it's perfectly quiet in here, we can barely hear you.
Oh, well,
Okay, there we go.
the thing is, I didn't hear any of you, so that's why I wondered if you could hear me. So,
Yeah, it's working better now. You might just have to lean forward.
okay.
Okay, we are ready.
And welcome everybody to the April meeting of the Board of Professional Engineers, Architects, Surveyors, and Landscape Architects. First, we will start with a video.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking, as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras. Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
Hey, Nancy, could you share the instruction for internet access and phone access, please?
Yes. Internet access. To view the meeting and provide live oral testimony, please use the link at the top of the agenda. You will be asked to enter your name. The board requests you enter your full name, but you may use a synonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You will also be asked for an email address. You may fill in this field with any entry in an email format. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may click the raised hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about that agenda item. The chairperson will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chairperson, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking. Upon request, your Zoom video or similar on-camera option will be enabled to allow you to be visible to the board members and other meeting participants while presenting oral testimony. Please turn off your camera after you conclude your testimony. It is the individual testifier's responsibility to ensure that they have the video and internet capabilities to successfully stream or remotely testify. The board maintains the authority to remove and block individuals who willfully disrupt or compromise the conduct of the meeting. For phone access, if you cannot get internet access, you may get audio-only access by calling the phone number listed at the top of the agenda. Upon dialing the number, you will be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is also listed at the top of the agenda. After entering the meeting ID, you will be asked to either enter your panelist number or wait to be admitted into the meeting. You will not have a panelist number, so please wait until you are admitted into the meeting. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering the asterisk key and then the number 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering the asterisk and then the number 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing the asterisk and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter the asterisk and then the number 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access, when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specified date and time. This information will be provided on the board's website. Instructions to attend the State of Hawaii virtual board meetings may be found online on the ISLA website of State of Hawaii Virtual Board Attendees Instruction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. We'll proceed with taking roll call. For those on Zoom, please confirm that you are present and alone when your name is called. Okay, Kevin Katayama.
Present.
Clayton Pang, not here. Howard Lau.
Present.
Ryan Fujiwara.
Here.
John Lucas. John Nakatani.
Here.
Jay Ishibashi is excused. Janet Primiano.
Here.
Nancy Cassandro.
Here on Zoom and alone.
Joel Kurokawa.
Here.
Alan Inaba.
Here.
Alyssa Carson.
Here.
And Tony Lau, myself, chair. So seeing we have a quorum, calling the meeting to order at 10:08 a.m. As we proceed, a reminder that when you want to speak, please state your name and each time before you speak. So agenda item number 2, approval to open session and executive session minutes of February 12, 26. Is there any public testimony?
Chair.
Thank you. Any comments, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting.
Or allow a motion to approve?
I'll let you know if it's second.
Second. Any nays, recusals, or abstentions? Not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Agenda item 3, 2026 legislative session update.
Okay, everybody, this is Eli Lane. Good news, I'm happy to report from legislative session. I'll just run down our list, top to bottom. There was another bill, or a bill introduced by DPP, again, Department of Permitting and Planning. This was relating to professional engineers, clarifying that counties, county employees' code compliance review of plans for construction be applicable to specific engineering experience. The board voted, the board was very against this bill for safety reasons with the public, just diversifying experience and such is very important. The bill was deferred. It was heard once and then deferred by the committee. And the accompanying bill is SB 3290 was never heard. It was introduced but never heard. That was on the Senate side, pretty much saying that the exact same thing as HB 1720. So moving right along to SB 2607. It is now titled SB 2607 SD1 HD1. Since filing the agenda, the House ended up doing another reading. It was heard back on May 31st. The committee passed it with amendments, and the amendments were just for the activation date. They made it to, I think it was January 1st, year 3000. And that's just to encourage further discussion to at the next step. They are going to make it, the plan as of now is to make the effective date as soon as they do pass it after this legislative session. And so, good news there, the board's in support of it. Sounds like the committees are all passing it. I haven't heard of any testimonies against it as well. So that's on track. And at this point, we, as a board, have done about as much as we can. And we're just staying apprised, keeping updated and keeping in contact with the legislators. And then the last two bills, HB 124 and SB 1506, SB1, they were not heard this year at all. They were relating to land surveyors and the statute of repose, but they were carried over to the session, but never. That's that for my legislative update. Any questions?
It doesn't have anything, oh, Janet Primiano, public member. I just wanted to ask about if there would be an addition in the agenda, on the agenda.
Oh, yes.
Would that be under new business for announcements?
What is the request?
It's regarding the NCAR registration for the annual meeting for 2026. Where would it be appropriate to add that to the agenda? And I beg your pardon.
So to make additions, sorry, Deputy Attorney General Jordan Chang, to make additions to the agenda within the 6-day required window, I think the board would A, have to approve it, and B, it would have to be related to something that is not of significance to the public, that will affect the public. So those are both determinations that the board need to make. So if you can explain what the agenda item you seek to add, and perhaps it's how it pertains to the board.
The registration has been opened already and for this event. And if we're allowed 4 members from our board. And I would like to suggest a public member to be in attendance to this, because I will be serving on, not as that 4th number, but as the on a committee, one of the committees that's already being funded.
Is this the NCARB Regional Summit? Sorry, or this
It's
is
for the annual meeting.
annual meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know where it's appropriate, and if it's appropriate, and you just wanted to let people know about it.
And you, sorry, you just like to explain to the public or to the board, like the purpose of the meeting and to solicit participation from board members for the meeting? Is that
To represent Hawaii
represent Hawaii?
at this annual meeting. So I'm not sure when it's appropriate to put that on the agenda. And if not, then at least people know about it.
Because the board funds for board members to attend.
The
NCARB.
NCARB board, the
Or NCARB.
NCARB organization fund the 4 attendees.
So,
Go ahead.
so I'm just thinking that that's really more administrative in nature. So probably doesn't necessarily need to be on this board agenda,
Yeah,
at least for this meeting.
yeah, I can address it offline.
Because May will be the deadline, May 31st, I believe. Yes. Oh, March, excuse me, March. No, it cannot be March. May. Okay,
I'll take care of it.
okay, thank you.
Discuss, yeah,
Thank you.
that's more administrative.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so back to the legislative session update. Is there any public testimony?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from? Okay, if not, thank you, Eli, for that report. Moving on to agenda item number 4, applications. There are, looking at agenda item number 4C, there are a few applications that we would need to discuss as a board. So is there a motion to move into executive session in accordance with HRS 92-4, 92-5A1 and 4 to consider and evaluate personal information related to individuals applying for licensure and to consult with the board's attorney on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities.
So moved, Howard Long.
Howard,
It's a second.
is a second. Any nays, recusals, abstentions? If not, all in favor?
Hi, Art.
Okay, we are moving into executive session. Okay, welcome, Aaron. Welcome.
Might be on the next.
Okay, we are good to go.
Motion to return.
We are back.
Yeah. Okay, welcome back, everybody. To summarize, for the benefit of the public, in executive session, the board discussed and consulted with the board's attorney regarding the confidential applications for Andrew Fitzpatrick, Joshua Jordan, and Richard Staneker. Okay, so we're on the agenda item number 4A. Ratification list, which are attached to the agenda. Is there any public testimony?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ratification list?
So moved.
Second.
Evan jumped in with the second. Any nays, recusals, abstentions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes. Item 4B, recommendations from the following application review committee, which are attached to the agenda. So I'm going to read all for the professional engineer committee, professional architect committee, professional survey committee, and professional landscape architect committee list. Any public testimony?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the recommendations from the application review committees as attached?
So moved, Howard Lau.
So second.
Thank you, thank you. Any nays, recusals, abstentions? All in favor, say aye. Okay, agenda, motion passes. Item 4C, engineers for Andrew Fitzpatrick. Is there a motion to approve the application?
So moved, approved. Howard Lau.
Or there's second?
Second.
Evan second. Any nays, recusals, abstentions? Not all in favor, say aye. Joshua Jordan, is there a motion to defer application?
So moved to defer. Howard Lau.
Alan second.
Alan second. Any nays, recusals, abstentions? Not all in favor, say aye. Okay, motion passes to defer Joshua Jordan. And number 3, Richard Staneker, is there a motion to approve application?
So moved, Howard Lau.
Second, Janet from Yonah.
And Janet, thank you. Any nays, recusals, abstentions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Richard Staneker is approved. Agenda item 5.
Okay. There was one applicant for exam. Christian Jones, do we need to approve at this meeting?
Not this meeting.
He's good to go.
I believe so, but because it's not on the agenda, we can't talk about it.
Okay, 5A, executive officers report. For summary.
Yep. The Interorganizational Council on Regulation, or ICOR, they created a practice overlap guidance. It's a new resource identifying where professional competencies overlap and differ across architecture, engineering, interior design, landscape architecture, and surveying. It was developed collaboratively by ICOR's 4 national regulatory bodies. I'm just going to say the acronyms, but you can read them in the agenda. NCARB, CLARB, NCEES, and CEDIC. The There's a link to the guide there as well. This was put on the agenda by request of Yoel Kurokawa, our landscape architect, board member. And it is a very, very comprehensive guide, very helpful for where the, like, as I said here, the competencies overlap and differ across the design industries. Moving to,
We have to ask for public testimony.
oh, yeah, that's.
Any public testimony?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Hearing none. Okay, let's move on to 5B.
Thank you, Chair. We received a letter from Mr. Arthur Weiner. It was a waiver request for waiving the CE requirement for his renewal. He's an architect. He is maintaining his active license only to maintain their AIA membership, emeritus status. So he's not practicing at all. In his letter, he mentioned that he has some, he'll be 90 years old in July and has not practiced architecture since 1990. He sent a letter of a waiver request to the board for the last renewal. It was October 13th board meeting in 2022. The board did approve that waiver. So it is at the board's discretion for this time around.
Any public testimony?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
I just think that this is John Lucas. I think that's I think it's been way before. There's precedent to prove it, and if he's not practicing, but this brings back that whole question of like a different, like a non-practicing license. I think we had a discussion about that at one time for cases like this where this you have a license but you're not practicing. I don't know if that discussion we want to have or again, or if that's even possible.
I'll say before, if we did want to start a discussion, we should know that for this, I would have to take it back to my superiors. It's more of an administrative thing about our licensing system and processes and such. And at this time, I don't think there are any emeritus licenses. So that would have to be a discussion of my superiors, and I would have to report back to the board.
Any other comments?
Nancy Cassandra, landscape architect online. You know, I question that too, of the practicing emeritus. And I know that you can't, the AIA membership is based on being a licensed architect, but I would volley that question back to AIA if they could have an emeritus level for retired persons, because if you grant a license and then that's asking each state to change their licensing to have some sort of emeritus status. And because if we grant a license, that means they can stamp a drawing. And how would we, as a board, you know, regulate who can and cannot stamp drawings, right? So I would ask AIA that same question. So if they're requiring this for membership, can they have some sort of emeritus status for people who are retired in? I mean, in this person's case, for him to be of this age and ill health, it you know, makes the statement. We can look at a practice of a license emeritus status that you just don't sign drawings. But I would ask AIA the same question. Can they come up with some sort of emeritus status for membership? Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other comments? somebody like to make a motion to approve or not approve this request?
I make a motion to approve, waiving the, CE requirements for Mr. Leader.
Is there a second to that motion?
Your second.
Any nays, recusals, or abstentions? I'm gonna do this verbal vote first, and if it's too mixed, then we'll do a roll call vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think we're good. Motion passes. Okay. Almost there at the end. New business, 6A, NCAR Regional Summit Report.
So the regional summit was held in Oklahoma City, March 19th to 21st. It also happened to be taking place during March Madness, which there was a arena right next to us, so it made for a very in juxtaposition of design professionals and sports fans. We had the general meeting, our regional meeting, workshops, and some points taken from the general meeting is there's ARE changes. The registration exam are going to launch on the 27th to align with the new 16-point competency standard. They reformatted some of the case studies on the exam. There's 3 resolutions, 26A, B, C. 26A is a mutual recognition agreement with the Architects Registration Board. The is an amendment to state policies passed by membership. And C was a certification guidelines amendment expanding access of the NCARB certificate. All pretty boring stuff. This stuff will go be discussed and voted on by the board in April. One of the topics was addressing fraudulent seals. There was a presentation done by the Oklahoma City State Board. One of the instances was a architecture student had, I guess a family member had ordered a stamp off of Amazon. And he had stamped a friend's drawings. And I believe there was even a case of student or someone photoshopping an actual license. So that came up. The student with the fake stamp was fined 30 grand. So another instance was there's 2 where there was a outfit. It wasn't named, but you can essentially order stamped plans online. And they were a legitimate licensed architect stamp. However, those 2 architects had no idea that their stamp was being used. So when they did some research, they found out that these plans were being provided by a company overseas, so no enforcement action could be taken. They did write a letter to the company and ask them to desist, in which they did. One of the things that came up is how easy would it be to order a stamp from Amazon, go into the state's database and pick a number and a name. And then, yeah, so anyway, that was eye-opening. There is there's 3 MRAs. There's an updated MRA with Canada. There's a MRA in the works with South Africa, and there's one proposed for the UK. So reciprocal licensing in Canada, South Africa, and Kingdom for those metric. And then the regional meeting, we talked about jurisdictional differences, in particular continuing education. California has a lot of extra hours. Illinois has 1 hour required of sexual harassment training. North Dakota and Arizona have no continuing education requirements. And then Florida has some Florida Building Code requirements. It was discussed about licensing, sort of synchronizing a a lot of architects have licenses in multiple jurisdictions. And so it's kind of hard to keep when they're all due. So there's discussion of streamlining it. I think this happened once before, but it's just too complicated. It's up to each state and it'll be different. We talked about an ethics, a CEU. That's required in some jurisdictions. See the alignment. We talked about, they also talked about credits and HSW credits. When you go to these lunch and learns, they're talking about a CE credit like introductory versus a CE like a professional or expert CE. Like if you learn about big Anderson windows, that make you that really education kind of thing. And they mentioned that sometimes that the CE presenters are reading a script and are more of a salesman type of thing. Else? Yeah. There's 2 workshops, one on reciprocity, one on responsible control, which is a new. We want to talk about that and release a standard of care. We did elections and approved the budget. Tim Fang was nominated for director again, for the 2nd term. Also elected chair, vice chair, and secretary treasurer. This year, Kathy Grogwhite from Guam. She was elected, or she was nominated and will be elected in April as the secretary treasurer. And he's during called her Madam Secretary. Else, I also at the regional meeting, Alyssa and Eli as our new MP. And lastly, if I can read this, whereas architect Brian Fujikawara has been a member of the Hawaii State Board of Engineers, Architects, Surveyors, Landscape Architects for 8 years, serving as a valued member of the board, whereas Brian has spent his career in selfless pursuit of the protection of health, safety, and welfare of the public. His hard work, insight, and enriched Hawaii Board, has enriched Hawaii Board and WCARB communities. Whereas Brian's sense of humor, quiet insight, calm demeanor will be dearly missed. It is therefore resolved that we express sincere, heartfelt appreciation for the generous gift of his time, talents, and insights, which benefited the public, the architectural engineering community, and his fellow Hawaii Board members with a standing ovation. So we all applauded Brian for his service. And, 2 more things. The Oklahoma City National Memorial, the keynote speaker at the end, Hans Butzer, along with his wife Tori, are the ones who designed the Oklahoma City National Memorial. And he gave a presentation about that. I was able to visit it, and it was emotional. It was architecture that invoked emotion, which was kind of new. It was very interesting. Yeah, and then lastly, the ABM is going to be, yeah, the ABM is in June in Minnesota, and I believe it's like June 25th. Registration is open. NCARB does pay for 4 seats, 1 exec, 1 public, and then 2 MBMs. That's it. I did register already. I didn't go through NCARB to get my flight yet, but I do plan on attending the ABM in Minnesota. Anybody have any questions?
That's a nice resolution for Brian. Is Brian going somewhere?
Art?
Is Brian going somewhere?
It's my last term. It's my last term. Actually, I didn't attend the regional. I canceled at the last minute, but yeah, I mean, this is my last.
Oh, okay.
term. It's probably why they did that presentation, but yeah.
Great, thank you for the report, John. Any comments? Public testimony?
I do not have any public testimony at this time, Chair.
Hearing no comments, thank you for the report, John. Moving on. Agenda item 6B, we have two honored guests with us today. We have the NCES President Elizabeth Johnston and the Western Zone Vice President Aaron Blaisdell. They're here to give a presentation about NCS and some initiatives that it would affect us or have us play a role in. So if you please join us on the table. Welcome. Sorry for the bad weather.
I come from Alaska, so this is always an improvement.
Aaron's from Seattle, so maybe he brought the weather.
Yeah, sorry, I had nothing to do with this, but.
Okay. Well, before we do the canned presentation, I can't sit and talk. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Before we get into the canned presentation, we did have some thoughts that we had prepared for Hawaii. The general presentation comes from NCAA's communication staff, and it's great, but a lot of you are already aware of this from attending the State of the Council meetings. I'm Elizabeth. I'm a registered electrical engineer from Alaska. Aaron is a land surveyor from Washington, and thank you for inviting us to your board. We had some just notes that we brainstormed on particular things that might be of relevance to Hawaii. As a way of introduction, my board, the Alaska board, is like Hawaii, that we have architects, engineers, land surveyors, landscape architects, and soon to be interior designers and public members. So it's a joint board. So as a result, I engage with NCARB, CLARB, CIDQ, and CARB, as well as NCAAS. So I'm happy to have a lot of colleagues from across the other disciplines here as well, not just the engineers and surveyors. The first thing we wanted to talk about was actually ICOR, so I'm glad it was on your agenda. ICOR did just conclude their overlapping practice document. The original purpose of this document was to make world peace between interior designers and architects. And then we decided, well, architects and engineers, we sometimes get into it a little bit. And so what is, you're good at this and I'm good at this and we don't overlap, what's acceptable overlap and what's not. And it's not intended to be written in regulatory language or statutory language to beat people upside the head. It's more to say, okay, we all agree that in general, you have education, experience, and exams that qualify you to do things, and so do I, and sometimes those overlap, and we have to be comfortable with that within the bounds of our statutes and regulations, and putting a little bit more language to things in a collaborative way. It is open for public comment, and NCAAS in particular has I think Google Doc or something that is collecting the feedback for version 2. So if your board does start to use this, especially because you're a multidisciplinary board where you're all around the same table, perfect. Comments on that are very appreciated. The ICOR is, like I said, it's all of our sister regulatory boards. There are two other things they are now working on now that the overlapping practice document is done. The first is related to fraudulent seals, and I believe, Jonathan, you touched on that briefly. In addition to the ability of anyone to go out and use AI to just generate what looks like a fake seal, they're generating completely fake, documents, surveys that look like a surveyor went to the field. So in particular, NCARB is very passionate about one of the things they are proposing is to propose to boards that they remove licensing information from their website. So you can't harvest the seal information. So you don't know Elizabeth lives at this address and her license number is this. Does that solve the problem? Does it just make it harder for a plan reviewer to authenticate that that is an authentic seal? So we figured instead of all of us trying to solve the problem independently, that this fraudulent sealing topic, whether it's electronic signatures or other third-party authentication, is something we should work on together so that the architects don't do it differently than the engineers. So we started a working group this year. I think the very first meeting is next week. Aaron happens to be on that working group. And so if Hawaii has any interest in continuing if you have issues with fraudulent sealing and you want to be more engaged with that group, you can let us know and we can make sure you're CC'd as they work through that. The goal is to have just the first deliverable is good practice for boards. Nothing like model law or model rules, but like we all recommend that you have some guidance to your licensees on how to do this well. And then of course, every state has their own laws and rules around electronic signatures anyway. And then the second would be proposed model law, model rule language that we could all stack hands on across all 5 of the licensing disciplines and say, we all think that this is what your laws and rules should say if we're going to do this consistently. That will probably take more than 1 year to come to an agreement, but that's the goal. The third topic that I-Corps is working on is continuing education. I think Hawaii board only requires CEs for your architects, not your engineers and surveyors, if I'm correct in my research. That does make you a non-model law state. And so there are challenges with mobility, because if you're in a home rule situation where you come from a state like Hawaii that doesn't have CE, and you're also practicing in states that do have continuing education, or vice versa, where you have off-islanders coming in for, say, a federal project, or maybe not federal because they would potentially be exempt, making sure that we have more uniformity was desirable, but then we sort of all backed into our corner and said, let's all just agree to respect each other's differences. Because, for instance, CLARB, the landscape architects, they think if you're going to require continuing education, that CLARB should provide it, because then they can, well, first of all, differentiate what value they're providing to their record holders, and they can vet the quality of it, similar to how the AIA has vetted the quality of the life safety curriculum that they will give the AIA seal of approval to. There's nothing equivalent to that for engineers. The closest we have is NCAAS now offers a ethics course, and as board members, you can all get access to that for free if you would like to take it. It's a pretty good course. It's out of the, what is it, the American Association of Engineering Ethics or something. So if you need that, we send you a code and then you can take it if you want. Of course, none of you need continuing education other than your poor architects, so maybe you don't want to. Okay, the next item that I had was a foundation update. So the NCAAS is a nonprofit. When we do, at whatever point, have extra funds, we try and do things that are aligned with our mission. So protecting the public, bringing along the next generation of engineers and surveyors. Their funding applications were due in February this year. They awarded 13 out of 36 applications last year, and those funds will be dispersed in September. One thing that may impact Hawaii is the licensure committee this year. I charge them similar to what NCARB is doing with alternative competency models and the 13 or 14 different characteristics, and measuring whether you meet your competency through various combinations of experience, education, and exams in alternative ways that allow us to expand the pipeline. They are creating what's called experience portfolios that will do something similar, where we're going to have competencies. You may, if you've been to an NCAAS meeting, remember the stacking boxes and rubrics. We're now just calling it portfolio, which I know to architects means something different, but to engineers is just how you're documenting your experience as a way of helping people along the process. The average person who takes their PE test is 32 years old. The average SE is 34. But if you're talking about surveyors, do you have any surveyors on our board today? Yes. The average surveyor takes their fundamentals exam at 35. And their professional exam at 38. And so how do we get more of them through the pipeline earlier in their career is very important. There are as many registered surveyors today as there were engineers in 1937.
Shortage.
NSPS says the average licensed surveyor is 58. So we have a pipeline problem. It's not getting any better. And it is essential when we're talking about property and protecting the public to make sure that work's still done by licensed surveyors. Something I'm passionate about, even though I'm just an engineer. Aaron probably has his own thoughts on that as a surveyor. But one of the things they're discussing as part of this is you are one of the non-decoupled states, meaning you have to come before this board and say, all right, I've collected my experience, I've collected my education, please evaluate me and then approve me to take this exam. The licensure committee is proposing, and you will have an opportunity as a board to vote on whether this is a good or a bad idea, to actually let people just come straight to NCEES for their PE and PS exams. They will not be licensed, of course. They have to come back to you and say, here, I've got it all done. But yeah, you got a question, Tony, please.
Well, I just want to make a comment. So the board has voted to move towards decoupling.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yes, the process is now just got to get started to get that into.
So basically how I phrase it is, if the back door is unlocked, what does it matter what we do with the front door? So we have all these other states that have decoupled. They can go get their tests, they can do all their stuff, and they can come here as a comedy application. So we're really protecting the public by having them come to us first. You still ultimately get to decide if they have the right character, the right education for Hawaii. Hawaii has some particular, I think, land surveying, education requirements in particular that are interesting. You don't actually have to have a surveying degree here. You just have to have a civil engineering degree. Yeah, and certain number of credits. So if that happens, then your board will get people applying to you that already have everything. And just FYI, you can vote against it. That's up to you guys. So that's one of them. The next one was you, Aaron, actually, which was the Western Zone Mobility. You want to do that one?
Okay, sure. So again, a little bit introduction and
I just dove in.
that's quite all right. Aaron Blaisdell, so I represent the Western Zone 15 member boards for NCEES. Licensed surveyor, regional license in Washington State, then have licenses in Idaho, Oregon, Alaska, and last one was Guam. I was able to get licensed there just this year. So it provides me a little bit of a unique opportunity, but also perspective in what I do. And again, as zone vice president, I really am the voice to the board of directors at NCEES for you especially. Being part of the Western Zone. So one of the things that Elizabeth touched on with the mobility, so one of the directions that I've actually provided others within our zone is how are we aligned when somebody is originally licensed in one state to go over and get comedy application in another state, mobility. How are we aligned in both FE, PE, FS, PS,
And SE.
SE, just overall education requirements. I think that, Eli, you've probably been bombarded with some of the questionnaires. And again, as a land surveyor, I'm really passionate about these are questionnaires. They're not surveys, right? So anyway, that's just my little touch on that. So anyway, as these questionnaires come up, we are trying to get some level of alignment. Every state is unique. Every state laws, processes, legislatures are all unique, but how can we be better aligned to start reducing or limiting those barriers when others want to, maybe because of family or just want to move to some of these states and they want to keep their profession. They want to keep that going. How do we align? And so working with our partners like NCARB, like CLARB and other organizations on the national level, we start to really harvest that data to say, okay, are we as aligned as we think we are? And if we're not, how do we get there? I'm interested in my visitation. So my last 2 years, we serve as a 2-year term as zone vice presidents. I'm wrapping up my second term. And so one of the things that I've been passionate about is visiting all the member boards to really dive in to say, okay, what are your pain points, but also are we able to help one another when we're talking member board, both strengths and some of the challenges that we have. Maybe it's legislatures, maybe it's our own internal, maybe it's on the national level with model law surveying, model law engineering. And so that's one of the things that we really are striving for within the Western Zone is mobility. Not necessarily forcing the issue, but more or less acknowledging, okay, how are we? One of the things that I will shout out to you folks on the Hawaii board is you guys are great advocates for Hawaii at the national level, and you are very passionate and very vocal group. I mean, we hear from Hawaii representatives and being on committee, national committees, zone committees. It really is a huge shout out to Hawaii. So Kevin and Tony, Howard, you guys don't let anything pass when it comes to speaking on behalf of Hawaii. So that's great presentation. One of the things that I also wanted to talk about mobility wise is how, again, not necessarily how we align from the model law, model rule point of view, but also continuing education. There's obviously some talk within continuing education, and again, let's keep that discussion going when it comes to mobility. So that's my wrap on the mobility side. So
Back to me.
hand it back to you, Elizabeth.
The other part that I'm intended to add under mobility is the International Engineering Alliance and FIG. So FIG is French for Federation Internationale Geomatics, something, and they don't want to be called FIG. So NCAAS is the representative of the United States to these international organizations. There is what's called the engineering agreements, which is how do we all measure each other's education? And there's the engineering accords, which is how do we evaluate everyone's licensing systems. And we enter into these agreements on behalf of the United States, and we make recommendations to our boards to accept, for instance, Washington Accord degrees as being substantially equivalent. And I'm not 100% sure, I didn't research Hawaii on how you treat international degrees. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared on that one. But this year we're doing for the first time is sending a delegation to FIG to try and do something similar on the survey side of the house. And actually Aaron's one of the 2 delegates for that. Under legislative updates this year, NCAAS tracked 245 bills across our jurisdictions that affected licensure. Your MBA gets a update. Do you get it weekly or ish?
Yeah, weekly by weekly.
Your board may or may not want to get a copy. If so, you can either get it through your MBA or you can sign up for it directly. You can get notifications based on topic areas or what's going on in your state. I don't think a state notification is particularly useful to Hawaii because having reviewed your last 4 or 5 board meeting minutes, your board in particular is very aware of what is going on with all of your legislature issues. So what we could offer on the NCAA side is more information and advocacy. So if you had a question come up in your legislator, like, hey, you guys are changing the PS exam to remove the mapping sciences questions now that you're going to have a mapping exam, or now that you're going to have a PLSS exam, what does that mean for Hawaii? We can provide people that can generate material for your board. You don't necessarily need us to advocate on your behalf because you are excellent at doing that yourself, and you may have your own policies regarding external influence, but certainly as a resource, it's always available. The next thing I had on my list was the SE exam. So I know you have at least one SE on your board. Hawaii is a post-PE licensure SE state, correct? You have to get your PE civil 2 years progressive experience. No, you can go straight to SE.
Straight to SE.
Straight to SE, great. So one of the challenges of going to computer-based testing with the SE exam was they went to what's called 100% alternative item types. So instead of having a 1 in 4 chance of guessing a multiple choice, you actually have to have, the floor is 0% on an alternative item types. You either know it or you don't. That has resulted in the PE or the SE pass rates for the depth portions. There's 4 portions to the SE test. There's vertical and lateral breadth and vertical and lateral depth. In Hawaii, you probably have a very good reason that you have SEs. You have a lot of significant structures, a lot of tall buildings, you have high wind at times. And so when you see pass rates dipping to 14% on an exam that you are requiring for licensure in your state, I bet the public is going to start commenting at some point. I don't know if they have already. So what can we do about this? Well, one of the things we've talked about doing is adding a little bit of length to the test. We went and we did a deep dive and said, hey, now that we have this new test and we have several administrations, is there just too much material in too little time? You know, most engineers that I know have minimum 2, if not 3 monitors at their desk. We're using this old single monitor. We're making you switch between the test and a PDF reference, and you can only have 1 reference open at a time. I'll tell you, when I'm doing my engineering work, I have at least 3 references open. I have my NEC, I have my NFPA, I have my IBC, they're all up at the same time. So it's not mirroring the practice of the SE engineers very well. And so they're trying to do a couple of things. They're trying to make the questions only have to have 1 reference open at a time to address how difficult it is to switch back and forth. They're adding a little bit of test time. So the administrations in 2026 have 6.5 hours now for the test. So if you do get questions from the public and they're frustrated with the SE, there are things we can do and there are things we can't do. I can't add 2 monitors because the same test setup has to work for the nurses as does for the engineers. Can't change that you can only open 1 reference. That's a function of the testing centers. But everything that I can do, we are trying to do. Another thing that we're looking at is allowing people to use the PE civil structural test as the breadth portion to satisfy their requirement, and only making SEs subsequently take their depth in the SE, because the depth portions are testing that high wind, high seismic, and the breadth is sufficiently potentially covered under the PE civil structural. The PE civil structural has a 61% pass rate versus 40% for the breadth and the SE. So that could potentially increase our pool. So we're like the Titanic. I can only steer it so fast. Well, maybe that's a bad ship to use as an example, but we are trying to make changes. To address some concerns with the FS and FE pass rates and getting more people into the pipeline, we've introduced the practice exams, the interactive online practice exams. You might have heard of those. And now that we have the data back on 1 year of those, we can statistically say that those who use the interactive practice exam have a 10% higher pass rate, and they pass it 1 year sooner than those who don't use it. So if you have, I don't know, a newsletter that goes out to schools or anything, that's potentially something you could use in your engagement with your educators. The other thing we can offer, do you guys do the honor cords to the Hawaii schools? So for anyone that passes their FS or their FE while they're in school, they're entitled to get an honor cord from NCWS. It's not efficient for us to ship those to 75,000 students. So we like to give them to the boards or to the schools to distribute directly. So if that's something you're interested in, we can make sure that that happens. There's a thing that we're dealing with now in our outreach, which is essentially what's called the graduation cliff. I don't know if you guys have heard the statistics on this, but basically across architecture, engineers, surveyors, landscape architects, there's a 15% expected drop in the number of students between 2020 and 2040, just due to birth rates, various things. That's all students. So there's just 15% fewer college students in 2040. So then we have the second problem, which is 60% of engineering and surveying students change their major to something else while they're in school. 40% of those do it in their freshman year. So if we're going to have 15% fewer to start with, the levers that we can change, but we can't start having babies, or that'll take 20 years and that's a weird plan. So we probably need to keep them in engineering and surveying and architecture. And so what can we do to make that happen? So this year, one of my task forces, which is called the Mission Initiative Task Force, is looking at ways that we can leverage all of our member boards and professional societies to do more things together to work on addressing this problem of how do we keep people in practice, make it a rewarding professional experience for them. So you'll see some of their recommendations at the annual meeting. And one of the initiatives, Aaron will talk to you later, is called what are you calling it now? The Island Initiative or the Insular Initiative?
Yeah.
You'll get to it.
Yeah.
And I think that was it on my notes. So if you want to pivot, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Can you just make one follow-up comment on the SC exam?
Sure.
So, and then thank you for taking a lot of those other comments that we had provided feedback. Great to hear that at least NC is trying to do something to make the structural exam maybe a little more palatable. Or, but to repeat a comment I made at the annual conference, currently in Hawaii, I think for the depth portion of the structural exam, it's only offered twice a year. So there's a long wait list of people that want to take it or retake it. And so if somehow NCS could look at potentially increasing the amount of seats to take that exam a little more frequently, that might help the situation. I mean, it's already hard enough to pass it on their first try or pass it again. These more opportunities would potentially help with getting more folks licensed.
Wrote it down.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I think is that structural exam, is that linear fixed form or is it?
The depth portion is.
Okay, so you have a little mix. Okay. Howard, do you sit on the structural in the task forces or committees?
I just got back on the boards.
Oh, then absolutely, it should be. Should be sitting there. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna pivot a little bit.
By the way, you know what my
Go
biggest
ahead.
heartache was? The number of pilot problems was an exorbitant amount that can be taking all those you spend all your time on the pilot problems and it's not gonna help you because that's not gonna count. So one thing they've also done is they reduced the amount of pilot problems.
Yeah, so the pre-test items that people take in order to determine if they're a good question was making it so people didn't get all the way through the test. And so they were helping us get questions tested, but not necessarily doing what they needed. So we reduced the number of pre-test items.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think above all, and NCAAS goes at great lengths to make an exam, no matter what it is, defensible, sustainable, and in doing so, one of those red flags that often gets raised is generation of questions and how that relates to exam.
So I am happy that our voices are being heard.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
usually only hear when people are very upset.
Right. So pivoting a little bit, so Island Initiative. I sent to Eli and I sent to others, and I've been talking to Tony a little bit. Kevin, and he probably started to hear some rumor about the what I call is Island Initiative, and that really was something at which meeting with Paul Santos, Maylee Christie over at Guam, Roy at CNMI, in my visitation with them and talking with them at great lengths over the last year and a half, it all comes down to pipeline. Elizabeth talked about it. The ages are creeping up on surveying, the less engineers. We have a lot of opportunity out there, but we just don't have the pipeline of people. And so Island Initiative began as this brainstorm to say, okay, how does how do the islands, Hawaii being one of them, Guam, CNMI, Puerto Rico, US Virgin Islands, how is that pipeline even created? What is that? How do you funnel people to the universities within Hawaii, but also the profession at large? Do you have a large population that's coming from off island practicing here and then leaving? Or are students that are within the university, within the islands, are they getting the education, getting the training, becoming licensed, and then leaving? Or halfway through the pathway, they're off island, whether it's schools, whether it's opportunity, they go off island. So it really points to a problem with pipeline, problem with profession, and leading to the protection of the public. Obviously, it's paramount. How do we ensure that the professionalism in Hawaii is Hawaii? And so I got together with Maylee and Paul, and again started brainstorming. You guys have it's labeled the Insular Initiative, Island Initiative. We're going back and forth because we want something that can be scalable. And this initiative, we're creating that scalable process to no matter where you're talking about within our 69 member boards, all of our states and jurisdictions, rural communities within Alaska can also use this as a way to increase their pipeline into the profession. Again, a protection of the public. We've had one steering committee right now meeting, and so gathering feedback. We had our second one a couple weeks ago. We're about to have our third one down. And what we've done is we formed this proposal to the board of directors as part of Elizabeth's mission initiatives, really drive or strategy is some of these mission initiatives are very much this island initiative, are very much needed. They're outside scholarships, foundation support. And so these are very mission-led. How do we get people within the pipeline? And that's something that NCAA followed it.
Are you ready for me to do the next part?
Sure.
Okay, so what does this actually look like? And first is anything we do as NCAAS is not the whole picture. I want architects at this table. I want interior designers. I want landscape architects as well. So if our goal is to build a sustainable network of leaders who can balance those local infrastructure needs and have more resilience for insular communities, then a lot of us need to have some common vocabulary. So the first phase is essentially a cohort of people who are going to meet virtually. And this is where if you have people that are either on your board or that you know that want to participate, they could participate in this. These are a series of online workshops and peer learning sessions that'll basically get us all on the same page. Things like what are the licensure pathways and jurisdictional requirements across these areas? What does infrastructure resilience mean in islanded and remote communities? What is disaster resilient design and how do you deal with that? What is workforce development and mentorship models mean in your jurisdiction and what's working well? And then this phase is basically building the shared knowledge. This will lead up to approximately a 2-day summit that NCAAS, we have a proposal to have NCAAS fund. And the idea would be that those who've participated in the workshops have met this requirement of engagement. They have shown that they're ready to show up. They're just not wanting a trip to Guam or wherever the meeting ends up being, but they've already shown that they're willing to give their time and engage on this topic. And then over this 2-day summit, we are going to basically have those very specific case studies, collaborations, problem-solving sessions to figure out how we can generate and brainstorm ideas to strengthen our professional design and surveying capacity in our home communities. And at the end, we're gonna have this cohort of people, a network that's established, that's stronger. We all have similar issues across this group of people, and both by talking about what's working and creating new proposals, which could be funded potentially by the NCWS or NCARB boards, we can have more initiatives that strengthen our individuals' communities' resilience. So this is the pitch to have a program that first has like this virtual session and then leading up to a 2-day session. If the Hawaii board is in any way interested in having people either on the steering committee or as attendees in this, we very much invite your participation. It is something that Aaron and I are passionate about. I come from what I would call an insular community. Most of the villages that I work with in rural Alaska don't have even medical professionals. They use telemedicine and some of the very same problems with diesel generators for power, until Starlink, connectivity problems. I have problems with corrosion and moisture and humidity in Alaska. I'm sure there's slightly less tropical problems, but it's still the same problem when you have a licensee who's coming from another jurisdiction that doesn't know about Arctic design, doesn't know about what it's going to take to not have the electrical gear corrode because you didn't use the appropriate stuff. So that's the pitch. And we're very much welcome to you guys helping us shape this or participate in it. And I think that was all I had to say about the island.
Yeah, and I think that we proposed at this point to the board of directors, sort of this ways that we can go about this very deliberately and with a full, I guess, focus on very key things based on indicators. When I talked to Meili in Guam and Paul Santos in Guam as well, and Roy CNMI, central to their mind was they have federal properties. 40% of Guam is federal owned. And so they get a lot of mainland professionals come in, do their work, and then leave. And that work is something that Guam has to really carry on. And a lot of that competence, not that it's less than competent, but a lot of that competence is from outside the region, and it's not island specific or Guam in that case specific. And so one of the things that they started to look at is what would be the incentives for students to stay on island, get their professional license and stay and practice. And so looking at both student incentives, faculty incentives, within the island community of Guam, 3,800 miles to Hawaii for University of Hawaii engineering programs. So they have long distances to travel. I think UAA is probably a shorter distance. I think it's shorter distance than California to Guam. And so they've got a lot of miles to cover in order to get that student good education. And so one of the things that we're proposing within the initiative is strategies to incentivize faculty programs within the universities that are on island.
Those are solutions, though. Those could be outcomes of the summit.
Right. There's also partnerships, obviously, with professional organizations. That goes without saying. I think that it's a far better collaborative approach, having other organizations that have understood they have a problem, we have a problem. Why are we doing similar approach, or maybe we're doing a different approach to solving the same similar problem, why not work together? And so having professional organizations, and I talked about feeder pathways. Again, that's, as Elizabeth put it, that's the pitch to the board of directors for this funding. I would certainly enjoy having Hawaii be present at those meetings, and certainly it's something that we're just getting started now with, and we need the help. So we need the voice. Are there any questions on that initiative? So, I really see this positive impact that it can be made in the future. And DCCA-PVL, I think is a great position to do just that. All right.
That was it, right?
Oh, yep.
Appreciate the overview and the presentation, particularly for the initiative. Does anybody have any questions? Or I guess is the first ask to get some volunteers to participate on the steering committee or task force?
If you just want to have a corresponding member that just gets the information and takes it back to your board, that would be like the minimum that I think would be great. For sure to have a corresponding member who we can communicate with. If you have somebody that's really interested and wants to be on the steering committee, the first thing we're trying to do is what's called a stakeholder register, figure out who should be engaged with this. The locals are the ones that know that. So if you had teachers that are focused in STEM, if you had whatever, so the liaison would hopefully be someone that could give that local perspective first of who should be around the table, and again, not just engineers and surveyors, but the other licensed professionals. And then if you wanted to join the steering committee, and ultimately, if you want to send delegates, that would be down the road questions.
It's certainly going to be discussed at the upcoming Western Zone meetings that I don't know who all is, I haven't looked at the roles to see who's coming. Okay. Friendly faces. So it's certainly going to be discussed at the Western Zone through actually through the various forums as part of my business meeting. It's going to be discussed at the next board of directors meeting. It's going to be discussed at the annual meeting within.
So for now, we can send stuff to Eli and that could be passed on through the chair. And if you do identify a liaison, let us know.
I'm just gonna throw myself out there. I'm interested.
Okay, great.
Party, it's I definitely have a passion for outreach programs. Have some familiarity with Guam, having practiced their disclosure drive work for the federal government.
Okay.
So I'm one of those that design stuff over there.
I have a question, sorry. So what, I mean, this is great that, Hawaii does have a shortage of surveyors. So was there a study done in terms of how long it takes to get a license? Surveyor? I mean, because like NCARB, they did a study, like it takes 13+ years.
Yeah, it's, I don't have that memorized, but I do have the information we can circle back to if you're interested. Yeah, the pathway to licensure that NCARB did, we did a similar one for our surveyors. It was surprisingly long. And what we were trying to identify is what was the cause? Was it they weren't getting the right experience or mentorship or education? Was the model law surveyor designation a barrier to registration by requiring a 4-year degree to become a surveyor? And should that be evaluated for an alternative model that would shorten the time the licensure? We'll get back to you with the answer though. But yes, that was looked at and I just can't tell you how long it is.
Speaking as a surveyor, definitely it's experience driven. I mean, surveying, I think historically has been very much an experience focused profession. And so when we look at 8 years 4 years, then FS, 4 years. With that experience, that's sort of that.
But speaking like as the member of the Alaska board, there's no alternative. You get a 4-year surveying degree from an ABET accredited program, of which there's only 14 in the entire United States. That seems like a barrier to me. I'm just an engineer, but
I think Nancy had a comment.
Oh, yeah, I did have a comment. Thank you.
Oh.
Nancy Cassandra, landscape architect, and I'm online. Thank you for traveling here and for your presentation. It's really good. And I am really happy. I like this Island Initiative program. It's been a problem for the design profession here for quite a while, especially for us landscape architects. So we kind of have been following your first two steps for several years now. For a long time, we didn't have a landscape architecture program here. So 2021 was the first graduating class of master's landscape architecture here in Hawaii. So we're trying to get in the education and licensing experience, but it is a challenge, and the design profession is being felt, like you said, with demographics changing. But the older population, we have more people who are licensed and practicing who are in the age of retirement than people coming in. So we really need this Island Initiative. So I just want to let you know that I think it's great. So more power to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Janet, public member. I was curious about this island initiative and whether, like Guam, you've been speaking to a few people there, and I was wondering how many people are you like from Hawaii would you like represented there? And would the surveyor also be a person that you would address being part of this initiative to be representing Hawaii too? And then I noticed that the first quarter of 2027 is the beginning of this initiative summit. So I'm really excited. I'm not saying that I want to be part of it, but I'm saying that, having other, having like the surveyor represented from Hawaii and of course our engineer representation, and I'm not sure if it's going to be including architects too, but having representation from and how many and what occupations are you looking at? What professions are you looking at being part of the summit team? So, and I do really appreciate.
Good question. Answer is we don't know yet because we're at that stakeholder identification time. So if we decide that all design professionals is going to be 500 people and it's too much to actually have it, and we want to limit it down, it may be fewer, but I don't think you could do it without the architects and the landscape architect, because they're just so essential to like get those perspectives. And there's even fewer architecture programs, or at least that's been my experience. So yeah, I would say it would be good to get a representative from each of the core design professionals, at least, on the phone. And it doesn't even have to be your board members. It could be if you had a member from the AIA or someone from ACEC or ASCE, the professional societies that wants to represent that profession. And that's where the board liaison would be helpful, because you could introduce the committee to those individuals on Hawaii. And I know you have several islands in Hawaii, so you might have different chapters representing different islands. I don't know. Kind of what you had in mind there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, again, we're at that stage where that stakeholder question is gonna be the next to overcome,
It
or
could
at
be
least.
the Society of American Military Engineers chapter, because they are the ones that are putting out RFPs that don't necessarily require on island licensees. So, could be, who knows?
And again, once we started building this, it became so large and overwhelming from my standpoint. Where do you cut it off at? Where do you, we want it scalable, but we want it done right in the right manner for the right reasons. And getting the right people to the table, representation from this board, I think is essential. All the disciplines, certainly, organizations, when we start talking about community groups, and you start talking about economic development councils within and the insular community groups, it's sort of like, okay, where are we really want this to start and build from?
It's very exciting.
Thank you. You were gonna.
Oh, I don't even remember my question. There is a goal for me. So my term ends in August at the annual meeting. So I want to get this through the board of directors with the dollars funded by that point. And so there'll be like draft agenda, draft stakeholders. So looking at the timeline, there's going to be some things that will come out to your board between now and August, just as part of getting that more complete picture for them to fund. So you'll see more from us over the summer. Does your board meet quarterly, monthly?
Bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly, okay. So definitely you'll have a couple chances to see this progress and just like corresponding materials to your board. I think we've identified you as a stakeholder, whether you are participating or not, but it sounds like we got at least Tony.
My term ends pretty soon.
Your term ends with,
Well, my term as chair ends pretty soon.
we've got an open land surveyor seat, and apparently Aaron likes taking tests, so.
A follow-up question, I guess, it's great that you guys are spearheading this, but with both of your official current terms ending, is there buy-in from the rest of the board for this initiative?
Yeah, so President-elect Sam Wilson is very excited. He actually told me I wasn't dreaming big enough when I asked for $150,000. He's like, this should be $1 million initiative. I'm like, okay, well, wow, okay. And my term as president ends, but I will have a year as past president. So I will personally make sure that this is executed at least the first year, and whether it turns into an ongoing initiative, we'll see. The board sets aside in its personal budget $500,000 a year to support mission initiatives. In the past, they haven't really utilized that funding. They kind of just, oh, it's left over. They gave some to the ASCE movie. They gave some to a few things, but having specific initiatives that are coming to them from member boards hasn't been happening. I said, that's kind of a waste. What is it we want to do that would have a good impact that we can do with our boards? And so I think that's probably where we just need to have buy-in from the president-elect and the president-elect to make sure we've got at least 2 years of this continuing. But their eyes did light up at the board meeting. I didn't get a lot of resistance. It was more just like, we want to see details. Every engineer, as soon as you say, oh, I want to do something, like, okay, where's the spreadsheet? Where's the budget? Where's the agenda? We're like, too early.
And it really helps having this initiative being, kind of born out of the member boards and not something that's coming from the top down, right? Or it's coming from a outside organization, saying that, okay, this is what we're doing. We just need funds
Yeah, like
for
there's
this
the
initiative.
proposal to partner with Discover E, if you're familiar with them. We've always done the e-week with them for the high school, middle school. They want to now do a proposal with us for the college. They want $1.6 million. That's just basically giving them money for their program.
Right.
So what could we do ourselves that is more tailored to what our boards need?
With the participation from the member board.
Yeah.
And whether public member, discipline member, even talking with some of the AEG representation, is sort of like, okay, this has to start at the very point at which the benefit.
Does your board have a dedicated investigator, or you use a pool?
We have a regulatory body that is a different division.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if they would be a stakeholder or not. That might be. They probably don't speak our language. Okay.
They address all the boards.
Yeah, it's somewhat going that way in Alaska. So they have everything from big game hunting guides to people investigating architects. And it's like, okay.
Sounds like the same thing.
Yeah. This is really just background material. It goes into what is NCWS, what are our zones, what is the statistics behind pass rates and stuff. It's a leave behind presentation. If you do have any questions after going through it, you know, we can always take those, but I hate when people read slides to me, and I thought I should prepare something more custom to you guys than what I thought you'd be interested in.
And we did share the PowerPoint with.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a starting
Yeah.
point, you know, you
and a
can
couple
read it
of
later.
key things that I want to point at the PowerPoint if.
Oh, you do want to go through
No,
PowerPoint?
no, I don't want to go through the PowerPoint.
Don't do that.
But a couple things,
No, like-
when you read it, you know, the meeting dates
Oh.
coming up. We have zone meetings coming up, representatives from this board. We've got the annual meeting coming up, special days. But also because volunteerism is such a critical point, part of member boards and NCWS, committees, hopefully everyone who is within the board, January 1, gets the questionnaire about committees that they want to serve on.
You don't have to be an engineer or surveyor to be on an NCWS committee. You can just be a consultant or other things, so.
Right, so committees are really the workhorses of the organization, and so whether you're wanting or Hawaii's wanting a little bit more a streamlined process within the model law or model rules or what have you, bylaws.
You also have the opportunity to make motions at the zone that become zone motions for the annual meetings. If there's something that's really important to Hawaii, you can do so.
But yeah, it really is a volunteer driven, and you know, whether you're on this board as an architect or engineer, surveyor, public member, landscape art, it's, you know, we need that input. We need that perspective. Those are all the things that I think that I wanted to touch on within the presentation.
The last thing I'll say, and I won't, since it wasn't submitted in advance, I can't present it because of your public disclosure, but we can send it as follow-up material. Before I go to any board, we do a review of your model, your rules against the NCWS model laws and rule standards, and we don't do that in any way to judge you. It is more just to point out where there are inconsistencies so that if mobility was a goal of your board, you would be able to get that external perspective. So we might send that through the chair and through Eli as potential future action items if you did decide that you wanted to. Simple things such as if you added the NCES ID as a capture field in your application, then later when the electronic license verification system adds Hawaii, our computers will talk together. Simple stuff like that that we might be able just to administratively do. And then there's more complicated stuff. For instance, you charge a $15 fee to do a license verification, which is something that NCWS will do for free, but that's what your rules say you have to charge. And maybe that's done in central licensing statute, but that doesn't have to be done that way because we no longer back charge boards to provide a license verification. So things like that, we can send that along as potential cleanup for you.
Okay. Appreciate that. Okay, any last for them?
Well, I just wanted to say that Alan Nava Surveyor, I wanted to say that I think it's very good. We will benefit from this. We're similar to Guam. I think we're a little bit better off geographically, you know, but I think we would really benefit from this program. And as a surveyor, I come from the Big Island, another, you know, most of the surveying companies are very small, 1 or 2, 3 men, you know, and the surveyor does everything, field work and paperwork, research, everything. And so sometimes it's difficult to participate in things like this, yeah. But I'm willing to give input if I can maybe, you know, get something to Tony and then I'm willing to give input. Yeah, we have a big problem. We lost 2 surveyors on my island this year already. 1 licensed, 1 unlicensed. So now there is a shortage of good surveyors.
We have to learn some Hawaiian. Don't you have to translate a property description from Hawaiian in order to pass?
Yeah, and you know,
your
Hawaiians
exam?
are very unique, yeah. I don't know what Hawaiians like, but the Hawaiian land survey system. My own son was, went to school, had to go to school in Idaho because he wanted to be a surveyor, so he had to become licensed. But he had to go to Idaho. He went to ISU.
Did he come back?
He's back almost 3 years now. Even for him, I had to, tell him that he had to go to the mainland. We had no choice. When I went to the university, there was only 2 semesters of surveying. There's no curriculum. I don't know about the university here now, but there's nothing on the Big Island where I come from. So it is very difficult for us to find employees. I had a guy retire after 20-something years. One guy retired after 20, not retired, but went to a utility company after 20-something years. So very difficult to keep the business going. Because we cannot find employees. It's difficult. Nobody wants to do surveying.
You know, when you mentioned that the average age of surveyor licensures in their.
34.
58. 58.
He's a youngster.
Yeah,
I'm 76. I'm gonna
and
be
he's only in
76.
his middle of his career.
I know. I'm going to be 76 and I don't see retirement yet. Yeah, I enjoy what I do.
Well, I think it also speaks to earlier in the agenda, you're talking about the inactive license or the retired license. It's something that I know at the national level, committees are working on within the definitions to make that a little bit more streamlined, because that's not unique to Hawaii. Every state is really seeing this sort of issue of licensees that have not been practicing for a specific time, that they're coming back. One of the statistics, even within our own office, and I'm a survey director of an engineering survey multidiscipline firm. Even within our own group, we see a lot of longtime surveyors. They're ready to retire, and not practice. But we often bring those individuals back because they have a perspective that we need within our profession that there's not a whole lot of us that can provide. So we bring them back, and then it becomes okay, they haven't been practicing for a period of time.
It's become an area of very particular focus between us and NSPS.
Experience is a very important factor. Even when I review applications, when I read, they have the years, but when I look at what they do, personally, I feel that they don't know enough.
Well, Hawaii does
But
not have a requirement
especially
for
civil
progressive
defense.
experience.
Sorry?
You don't have a requirement for progressive experience, even for engineers. You can do 12 years as a nominally EIT drafter and not demonstrate progressive experience and be licensed. It's a unique thing in your language, actually.
I find a lot of applicants have a limited experience, although they have the years. The experience is narrow. I think it takes more, wider a range of experience. That's my own.
You're not alone. I mean, again, visiting all the Western zones, member boards, it's something that's in every member board jurisdiction, every state, even Washington State. Washington State doesn't have a 4-year degree program, never has. They've been only able to get 2-year, but even those 2-year programs, they're just not, I would say, big money makers for the universities and the community colleges either. So it's really.
Surveying has evolved to this plain surveying with GPS and all that.
You guys have all the cool toys.
Right?
You have all the cool toys now. You can just use drones.
Oh.
And AI.
It's not that, it's not always that. Everybody says.
Sarcasm. I need sarcasm. Sorry.
GPS, but it's not always the answer.
Yeah, I know.
You didn't pack
Drone
your
is not the
things.
answer too, there's a use for it, but it's not always the answer.
Absolutely.
Well, you'll have to tell him if there's a good monument for him to find while he's here.
Yeah.
You know, regarding this island initiative, you know, I wanted to share this observation. You know, even though we're saddened that we lose our youngest and brightest engineers to the mainland because they see all the bright lights, the big cities, San Francisco, LA, and all that. You know, I want to mention that, you know, I'm with Kaufman Engineers and guess where we got two of our young engineers from?
Alaska?
Guam. They're coming from Guam and they see Hawaii as the big city. So it's kind of, I feel bad that here we are meeting their people and then.
I was just telling you this morning, my nephew comes to Honolulu, he doesn't want to come back to Hilo.
There you go.
Be careful from Hilo.
Perspective.
Less traffic in Hilo.
Okay, well, thank you again. Really appreciate you coming all the way over here. I'm just gonna move down. We have one more item left on the agenda. We announce the next meeting, which is on June 18th. It is the third Thursday, not the second, two Thursdays traditionally. So just be aware of that. Okay, with that, the meeting is adjourned at 12:01. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just